Well, despite the fact that we're in the midst of, just a completely slow news week, month, this is the doldrums of the NBA offseason. Kylen Mills is going to join me to try to spice things up. Rich Paul did give us content to talk about slandering Steph and Curry. We're going to discuss that and so much more next. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You can follow Kylen Mills on all social media platforms at her name, Kylen Mills. Are you on Threads yet?
No, I'm not on Threads.
What's the lag? What's going on? It's starting to blow up. It's no longer. Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. It's getting there. Yeah.
I'm just been busy.
Yeah, you definitely got to get on that train. It's starting to pick up. But regardless, follow Kylen at Kylen Mills. You can follow me
whenever
on
I'm
Threads.
On Threads. I'll be Kylen Mills still. So just search it.
Exactly. There.
One of these days you'll see me on here very soon.
You can follow me on Threads and Instagram at Dog Wild. How are you doing? I saw you covering the Big Ten. What are your thoughts on the Warriors, though? I mean, you mentioned before we started recording how certain publications that report on the Warriors, even they're dried up. We're in the midst of it for sure. What are your thoughts on the Warriors? How are you feeling about them? And how are you doing?
I'm ready for the season to start. I'll tell you that much. I feel good about the roster. Would love to see one more big be added. That's something that has continued to be on my wish list throughout the season. But just ready for the season to get here. Like, things are as slow as it gets, like you mentioned. Even, a number of the normal beat writers who are finding things to write about the Warriors, like, they're all on vacations. It's just a slow time. But it is cool to see Steve Kerr with Team USA. They're off competing in the FIBA World Cup. So that's one thing to keep an eye on. He did have some funny comments about Austin Reeves, but that was a few days ago even. Like, as of today, there's not much going on. But I don't know if you saw that. He was joking about Reeves and what the Lakers did eliminating the Warriors because Austin Reeves is on Team USA. So it was a lighthearted comment, like nothing even, there's no meat to discuss there. But, FIBA World Cup, I'd say, is the only thing going on in the basketball world majorly right now, at least surrounding Golden State Warriors. Ready for the season. I think the team is going to be good this year. Would still like to see a little more front court depth. But, I think it's a good roster.
Yeah, well, I saw in and this is where I love when we do live shows. People actually will break news to us. So Alexander, the first chat comment writes, "Why Wood to the Lakers? No!" And we're recording this at approximately 8:30 p.m. Pacific time. Half an hour ago, Christian Wood, I just looked this up, reached a 2-year deal with the Los Angeles Lakers. So the Lakers just got bigger. They got Christian Wood. That's another player we're going to cross off the list for the Golden State Warriors. Man, we timed this really good. Kylen, over the last week and a half, there have been a lot of players that we've talked about that could serve the Warriors well with that 14th roster spot. JaVale McGee became available, and then the Kings snatched him up. We've been talking about Harry Giles III, and the Brooklyn Nets snatched him up. Christian Wood, we thought was a long shot. People were wondering why he was still available. Maybe he has some personality issues. Well, the Lakers decided we're going to look past that. We're signing him. There aren't a lot of players left. Last show I did, Kylen, with Ryan Leong, I brought our mutual friend on the program. We talked about the fact that the Western Conference is super deep when it comes to front courts, and the Warriors just lost another potential big. How are you feeling right now to this? Because I'm not feeling great.
Not feeling great at all. I just mentioned front court depth. The one thing that I think would improve this roster, was super disappointed to see the Kings pick up JaVale McGee. Like, I think they're a team that is very strong in the front court now, combined with De'Aaron Fox. They already had Sabonis, who he had some jarring back in the fourth in the playoffs, but still at the end of the day is, a great piece in their front court. McGee added depth. Disappointed to see the Christian Wood news because, as you mentioned, the list is getting smaller. And one thing about Christian Wood is he's not too old. He's just about to turn 28 years old. He put up good numbers for the Mavs despite being limited in terms of his minutes. He wasn't a regular starter, but he still averaged more than 16.5 points per game, more than 7 rebounds per game, shot more than 51% from the field, and also was nearly 38% from deep. So exactly what the Warriors are looking for in terms of someone who's able to stretch the floor. You mentioned maybe some of the other, I don't know what the drawbacks are exactly, but, to me, this was another very, very good and viable option that the Warriors have now let go. I would love to know what the plan is for them to fill out this roster because I'm sorry, but no more Andre Iguodala. I'm done with that. I'm done with him taking up a spot. Love Dre. Love, having him around the organization, but he cannot stay healthy. And I just think they need more front court depth. I think you're absolutely right. When you look at the Western Conference, like automatically teams need to be building around how to shut down Nikola Jokic. And the Warriors don't have an answer for that right now.
No.
They already got beat up in the front court by the Lakers. That's why they got eliminated last season. That's a big reason why. Luckily, they kind of figured it out against AD, but he came out and absolutely smoked them, just dominated in the paint on both ends. So to me, it's like the team didn't necessarily get that much bigger or deeper in the front court this offseason to where I suddenly feel like super confident that we're going to be able to handle it. But now you look at the Kings and Lakers adding more front court depth, like it's definitely not something to feel good about. I don't even know who's left on the list that I feel good about the Warriors adding. Like
Yeah, I mean, Bismack Biyombo is the only name left that I see out there who could come in and not be a liability. Like he can give you the last show, someone I thought expressed this brilliantly. They're like, Bismack Biyombo will come in, give you 6 fouls and 8 rebounds, and that's all you need. It's perfect. So he's still out there. One name that's been linked to the Warriors, who's still out there, and I don't know how you feel about this. I don't know if I've asked you about your feedback on this, is Blake Griffin, who apparently will not return to the Boston Celtics. That news was dropped today. And again, the Warriors have reportedly expressed interest in Blake Griffin. What do you think about Blake? Would you like him on the Warriors? Greg King mentions Myers Leonard. I guess. Yeah, there's players like that out there too, like the Frank Kaminsky's of the world. But what are your thoughts on Blake Griffin? Because he's actually been linked to the Warriors, unlike Myers Leonard.
I just feel like it's such a big drop off from talking about JaVale McGee and Christian Wood to Blake Griffin. Like, I just feel like Blake Griffin is kind of washed. Like, I just like his best days are behind him. Whereas you're looking at a Christian Wood who's like 27 years old, 28 years old, who I think can bring a little bit more juice and a little bit more energy. How old is Blake Griffin now?
Oh, he's like 34, 35.
I was going to say he's in his mid-30s, right? And it's just like, God, this roster's already so old. Like, that's my only thing. It's just like, I don't know. I just...
Yeah, 34 years old, yeah.
Yeah, I would say, and I just feel like based on the way he plays, like he just seems like he is at the very, very end of the last lifeline of his career. I mean, I guess it's better than nothing. Like,
yeah.
And maybe the reunion, maybe the reunion with Chris Paul, they spark up some kind of connection. I don't know. But I mean, I just don't see, it excites me way less than it does that talking about a Wood and McGee. I don't know. I mean, I'm happy for any big at this point.
Yeah. Kurt Porter in our chat mentions Boban, who's 7'4", but I don't know if he can still play serviceable minutes. In my opinion, whatever big you get, it has to be someone who can not be utterly and completely exposed in these crucial games against teams like the Nuggets. I mean, Nikola Jokic, he was already amazing. Now he has world championship experience under his belt. And JaVale McGee would have given you a good 15 minutes. I don't know if Blake Griffin's going to do the same.
That's the thing. I don't know if he can even sustain that. His numbers were the worst of his career last season. And that's why I say, bring up the just wash fact. Like, I don't think he's ever going to get back to where he was. And it's like, how much workload can he handle? Like, we already have all these old players who are getting injured left and right. Like, it doesn't help if the depth is like, someone who can't, Andre just said it in the chat, can't dunk anymore.
He dunked last year, though. He did. I saw him do one dunk.
I would say I think he did.
He can still dunk, but it's not like what he used. It's not like what
no, it's not. He's nowhere near what he used to be. When you look at the connection he had with Chris Paul and the Lob City stuff, it's not what it was. So I guess that's just my point. Riding another old player who's a possible liability to get hurt, who's clearly at the tail end of his career based on the fact that he had the lowest numbers of his career last season. Like, it's just hard to get really excited about that.
Absolutely. I'm with you. And Jace Johnson, Poison Clan 1707. I would love him. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, sign me up. It's going to be probably someone obscure. I have no idea what the Warriors are going to do, but they do still have that one roster spot. When we come back, we got to play this soundbite. And again, the news cycle's slow when Rich Paul is suddenly in the headlines. I mean, he's a player agent, but his opinion, because he's buddies with LeBron James, apparently carries weight. It's got people talking. It got Draymond Green even talking. He tweeted in regards to this story. So we're going to play that soundbite, and we're going to discuss it and much more when we return. The chat's open. We're live. If you throw in anything interesting, we'll obviously talk about it. First, got to give some love to Birddogs. Tell your hubby, please, I have his Birddogs clothes in my possession. I'm going to hook them up. And gentlemen out there, Birddogs is for you. It's men's clothing, and it's all about fulfilling two key variables for modern fashion: style and comfort. And that's what Birddogs does. If you just want to lounge around on the couch all day, if you just want to sit in front of your computer, in front of your TV, whatever you're doing, just chilling, it's great for that. It's comfortable. You're going to feel very cozy. Yet, if you suddenly got to leave the house, you got to run to the store, you got to go get something to eat, you don't have to change. That's the beauty of Birddogs. You're comfortable, but you're also stylish. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA or enter the promo code LockedOnNBA at checkout for a free Birddogs water bottle with your order. I have one. I love it. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA for a free water bottle at checkout. You won't want to take your Birddogs off. We promise you.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. For the everydayers, we're going back to a full-time schedule in 2 weeks. Kylen, are you ready? We're going back to 5 days a week.
I'm ready, and I hope there's news and things to talk about. But yes, very ready for basketball to start back up.
Basketball, yes. Us going 5 days a week, I don't know yet, but I'm totally with you. But regardless, yes, we are going back to a full-time schedule in 2 weeks, which means training camp is just around the corner. I am very excited for basketball to come back. Follow Kylen Mills on all social media platforms at Kylen Mills. Her name, super easy. Mine is pretty easy on Threads, at Dog Wild, one word. So Rich Paul was on one of the player podcasts that's become pretty popular, and that's Gilbert Arenas' show. I forgot, I don't know what his show is actually called, but it's the Gilbert Arenas podcast, I guess. And he had former Golden State Warrior, by the way, and a huge reason why rules were changed for second-round draft picks, because the Warriors just watched this second-round pick of theirs rise in ascension to borderline greatness, and then watched them just walk away because the CBA rules back then did not allow the Warriors to match what other teams were offering. It was ridiculous. So anyways, Gilbert Arenas has a podcast right now, and he had Rich Paul on, and Rich Paul, the conversation went to the bubble and whether or not LeBron James's fourth world championship carried gravitas, whether or not it carries the same amount of weight as the other championships do. A lot of people criticize it. They call it the bubble championship. They call it the Mickey Mouse championship. So Rich Paul had to bring up Stephen Curry's name in this argument. Why? I don't know. Take a listen.
But taking that, not even focusing on that.
Right.
If Steph wins in the bubble, do they discredit it?
Yeah, you got to.
No, they don't.
We're still saying the same thing. We're saying it's a bubble ring. We're still saying it's a bubble ring.
Because it's
circumstantial.
But you're one.
But the media,
talking about
they're talking about the masses that
anybody
the most people listen to.
Exactly.
They still getting the same thing. I mean, yeah, outside of LeBron and Steph, yes, they it's just going to be like, okay, you. Hey, but them two, they're the only two that's going to get slandered for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just saying, no matter who would have won it, I just felt like under those, I was in the bubble. So under those circumstances, you getting up, you testing every day, you haven't seen your family in 90 days. If you made it that far, and to me, it was harder because when you look at the two teams that went, We know what the Heat culture brings, right? And then you had to have leadership between Rondo, LeBron, AD. They had a very adult team once they got in there for the most part to be able to lock in. And you got to remember the distraction that happened in the bubble when they stopped playing.
Yeah.
Okay, so as you can see there, the propaganda machine for LeBron James in full effect there. That's one of the huge reasons why I love the fact that Bob Myers is now part of the NBA Countdown crew. Stephen Curry has someone in his corner and on this the NBA national scheme. What are your thoughts on what Rich Paul just said there? Right? Like how Stephen Curry, if he had won the title, he would not be criticized for winning a ring in this isolated environment like LeBron James did. Your thoughts, Kylen?
Totally false. That's my thought. I think that Steph Curry would be said the same thing. I mean, people still write off Steph Curry because he won a championship with Kevin Durant. Oh, super team. Oh, he needed Durant. Oh, he needed this all-star. Oh, he needed this. Oh, he needed that. Like, people look for any excuse to write off Steph Curry's championships. It doesn't make any sense to me because I think he gets more flack or, more people discrediting him in the national media and big picture in terms of NBA fans than any other superstar. I believe that. A lot of people have criticized LeBron for that bubble championship, but I think that Steph has been discredited more than that. The whole KD thing is the first thing that comes to mind, that people like to say that championship, doesn't mean anything or as much for Steph's legacy because he needed KD and he needed another star and he couldn't be the guy, whatever. So that if Steph won a bubble championship, that's the exact thing people would say. I don't have any questions about it. LeBron took the heat, but if it was Steph, it would have been the same exact thing. People look for any reason to discredit. Jordan, Kobe, and Curry better than LeBron. Ooh, I kind of like that take. It's a hot take, but I like it, Kenneth.
Totally. It's ridiculous. Absolutely. I mean,
do you agree, Cy? Like, don't you think that if it was Steph, people would have immediately been saying that?
I mean, all the slander he was getting before he won the finals MVP. I mean, he is criticized, in my opinion, more than any major star in the NBA. I think he's criticized more than LeBron, honestly. That's why it's a laugh when I'm hearing that. And I love how Rich Paul is throwing out heat culture. That no one was saying heat culture back in 2020 when that Miami Heat team was so inferior to the Lakers. For him to actually say, oh, that was tough competition, that was not tough competition. That was a ridiculously easy NBA Finals opponent that the Lakers had that year. It's asinine. This is, look, Rich Paul is one of his best friends. A few years back, Maverick Carter was hosting another one of LeBron James's buddies was hosting a podcast, and Draymond Green was on the podcast, and people got mad at Draymond on that show largely because they didn't think Draymond was sticking up for Steph enough. There's a lot of people, at least on certain social media platforms, like maybe it's Twitter, I don't know, but there are a lot of people mad at Draymond about the fact that they don't think he sticks up enough for Steph and Curry. They're mad at him because they think he's too buddy-buddy, too chummy with LeBron James. I want to read to you this tweet that Draymond published today. He was quote tweeting someone who was echoing similar sentiments, how Draymond, like he doesn't pick a side, how he's almost disloyal to Steph. So Draymond Green wrote this in Twitter today, quote, "Imagine overvaluing your opinion so much that you get this caught up in two men's lives. Start using the word enemy to describe two black heroes and then proceed to falsely accuse another black man of playing both sides. Both sides of what, to be exact? A pointless debate or the simple appreciation of others' greatness? I am super confused on what sides it is that you speak of. Lastly, I don't play anything but basketball. You don't make it this far in life playing, with the exception being playing basketball for me. Good luck with the debate," unquote. And I think what Draymond is ensuing is that in their lives, in their private lives, they're not having these kinds of debates. There is no Steph versus LeBron. There is no animosity. I think that's what he was saying there. What do you have to add to Draymond's comments on Twitter today?
Yeah, I was reading through that, and I had to a couple times because I was also trying to decipher exactly what he was trying to say. But I think your point was pretty right, just in terms of the fact that this is a non-issue amongst the actual players, amongst people who know basketball, amongst people who have won championships like Draymond Green. Like, to me, I think that he's just pointing out the fact that he thinks the discussion is pointless and it's a new media type of thing. He's saying old media versus new media. That's the other thing that came to mind. He's just like, oh, old media always trying to, figure out some way to pit one star against the other, to devalue one's accomplishments, when in reality, they don't care. Steph and LeBron, Steph and other stars, like, they don't care at the end of the day about this kind of stuff. Like, but I don't know. I read through the comments a couple times to try to figure out exactly what he was saying, but that's what I took away from it as well. And I will say, like, I get some of where he's coming from, just in like the Steph versus LeBron, LeBron versus MJ debates. Like, it does get tired at some point. Like, something that Draymond mentioned in his tweet was, at what point can we just appreciate greatness or something like that? And that's like always my approach to those types of things. Like, some people will get so heated, like one way or another, about LeBron versus Steph, LeBron versus Jordan, whatever. I personally think Michael Jordan's the greatest of all time. But at the same time, like, just be happy and appreciate greatness, appreciate what these players have done in different eras of the game and different styles that they played in. To me, it's, Rich Paul trying to come up with some reason to, say that LeBron is the GOAT. And like you said, it's what he does. So,
He does. And he made some ludicrous points in that show, but I just wanted to play the Stephen Curry part of it. We got a few minutes here. I want to bring up Team USA, which Steve Kerr is coaching. A drastically different result from the last show we did, where we were talking about Team USA suffering an upset loss to Lithuania. This time they play an Italy team that was much smaller. They run a motion offense similar to what Kerr runs, and Team USA blasted them in a must-win game, the quarterfinals, 100-63. I keep calling Team USA the Warriors. Team USA has advanced to the semifinals. I want to make some corrections. I got called out on Threads. This is how I know Threads is growing. People are now starting to I saw a tweet, post at me, thread at me. Yeah, well, and they were right. I acknowledge that. I'm like, you win, you're right. Because I said that FIBA games have 12-minute quarters. They actually have 10-minute quarters. I was totally wrong there. My apologies. So they play 40-minute games, and I have to give that individual kudos there. So my bad on that. What are your thoughts on this, Kylen, though? Because what I don't have any regrets on from the last show is that the Team USA was grossly out-rebounded 43-27 in that game. And Steve Kerr, just like with the Warriors, does not play his bigs. I mean, Paolo Banchero, I feel like should be playing more. I love this kid. Walker Kessler, the last game they lost, only played 6 minutes. So I'm still seeing this small ball kind of mentality with international play. Any thoughts that you want to add to the Team USA action?
Yeah, I think that you do have to utilize bigs, especially in the international game, which is, at least from what I've been told from players and from what I've seen in a lot of the leagues, it is very physical. But I also think that, at that point in that match, in that game against Lithuania, the United States already knew they'd secured their spot in the knockout round. So, like, True. To me, yes, you still want to win and you don't want to be, for example, embarrassed with a loss or anything like that. But at the same time, like, it's not like they had the same incentive of something to play for because they knew they had already advanced. And then in terms of this win, I think this is a great response against Italy. It was like the least points that the U.S. had held, or the fewest points the U.S. had held a team to since like the early or mid 90s or something. I can't remember what World Cup it was. But also something to keep in mind to me is that I actually think that the U.S. has been performing well considering the players on the roster. This U.S. roster includes not a single player who's competed in a previous Olympics or World Cup, and not a single player who's been named to the All-NBA team. So the idea that this is like the best players in the U.S. is false by a long stretch, even though, obviously that's what you think of because players do look for opportunities to play for their country. At least in the United States, a lot of guys don't want to risk getting injured. A lot of guys want to enjoy their time in the offseason, but especially now you're getting closer to the season. A lot of players, especially older players, like you look at a Steph and a lot of people were trying to get him on that Olympic team and he wouldn't go. But at some point for some of these guys, it's not worth risking injuries.
Yep.
So I think USA should still win. I think they should still win it all. They should still advance. But in terms of Lithuania loss, I wasn't that concerned. The team, knew that they were going to advance to the knockout rounds. I still look at this roster and think this is a lot of guys who are inexperienced at the international level, not anywhere close to the best players in the United States. And so I think that they've done well overall. And the margin of international teams have closed, according to Richard. I will agree with that. And I think that's a part of it. I think that the U.S. not playing with their best players is now seeing that they can't underperform because other teams have caught up. I think that's absolutely true. Basketball is rising in popularity worldwide. I mean, that's a big thing that needs to be pointed out when you look at the global scale for a long time. And, we've called the NBA champions the world champions, but leagues are getting more competitive around the world and players are getting better and basketball is getting more popular. So that is something to also keep in mind, to where when the U.S. doesn't have necessarily the roster that is full of superstars, much more competitive roster when you look back at the Olympics compared to the World Cup. The gap is closed and they can't afford to play sloppy and play bad. They have to actually play up to their potential to beat some of these other countries. So, but I'm going to be very curious to see how it plays out. You look at that Olympic team, everyone was freaked out. It was a historic loss in exhibition before they even left for that Olympics to Nigeria. If you remember that, it was like the first time Nigeria had ever beat USA. People, because that's something Draymond also tweeted about, was that the people very quickly started to turn on USA basketball during the Olympics. So he's like, hey, chill out in the Lithuania loss. This team's still going to win. And I think they came back and responded. I think when the team plays well, they can win it all, but they have to actually play well. Like I'm saying, I think they have to apply themselves. Like this is not a situation where the U.S. can just like skate through half something it.
Absolutely. And just to add to the mix, like the reigning FIBA World Basketball Cup champion, Spain, they're not even playing anymore. I think the silver medalist from the last run is also out. Just to give you some history, Team USA in the last 5 World Cups, in 2002, they finished in 6th place. That was a team that had Paul Pierce on it. In 2006, they finished bronze. That was a team that had LeBron, Dwight Howard, Chris Paul, Carmelo, Dwayne Wade. In 2010, they got a gold medal. That team had Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant. In 2014, Stephen Curry's squad, Kyrie was on that squad, James Harden. They got a gold medal in that one. And then in 2019, it was pretty abysmal. They finished in 7th place. And someone asked in the chat, is Steph going to play in the Olympics next year? I believe that's the plan. Especially with his current head coach expected to be the head coach for the Olympic team. So yeah, I do think Steph will play in the Olympics. So great show as always, Kylen. Any final thoughts before we call it a wrap?
That's it. Ready for the season to start, ready to get back into our more regular episodes. But first, there has to be news to talk about. So hopefully things will start heating up as, preseason and training camp approaches.
Absolutely. Folks, have a great night. Kylen, great to see you as always. We'll be back at this soon. Until then, take care. Bye-bye. No buys from you.